but not allowed to legally buy or consume alcohol until reaching the age of license, which is, of course, 21. But what if you decide that you want to be on your own before you reach the age of 18? This would require a legal process called emancipation. This happens when a minor is legally emancipated by the court to automatically obtain the age of majority before their 18th birthday. They are no longer controlled by their parents or guardian, and likewise, the parents or guardian are freed of the responsibility toward the emancipated child. Most jurisdictions consider minors who marry to be automatically emancipated and have obtained the age of majority status. Alright, so now that we've covered those bases, let's get back to where all this started. During World War II, President Franklin D. Roosevelt lowered the minimum age for the military to draft to 18, even though the voting age had historically been 21. This outraged many, and a rally cry was born: "Old enough to fight, old enough to vote," became the slogan of the youth voting rights movement. In 1942, the slogan prompted Democratic Congressman Jennings Randolph from West Virginia to introduce federal legislation to lower the voting age to 18. It was Randolph's faith in America's youth that really drove this effort. He said they possess a great social conscience, are perplexed by the injustices in this world, and are anxious to rectify those ills. And in 1943, Georgia became the first state to lower its voting age to 18. Presidents Dwight D. Eisenhower and Lyndon B. Johnson both greatly supported Randolph's cause. Eisenhower was the first president to publicly voice his support for a constitutional amendment that would lower the voting age. In his 1954 State of the Union address, he said, "For years our citizens between the ages of 18 and 21 have, in times of peril, been summoned to fight for America. They should participate in the more political process that produces this fateful summons." In the late 1960s, with the U.S. involved in the long and costly Vietnam War, youth voting rights activists held marches and demonstrations, demanding the attention of lawmakers to the injustice and hypocrisy of drafting young men who were denied the right to vote. In 1969, 60 resolutions were introduced into Congress that would lower the voting age to 18, but none of those resolutions ever came to anything. In 1970, Congress passed a bill that extended and amended the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which outlawed discriminatory voting practices. The new bill contained a provision that lowered the voting age to 18 in federal, state, and local elections. President Richard M. Nixon signed the bill into law, though he issued a public statement declaring the provision to be unconstitutional. He said, "Although I strongly favor the 18-year-old vote, I believe, along with most of the nation's leading constitutional scholars, that Congress has no power to enact it by simple statute, but rather it requires a constitutional amendment." In the 1970 case of Oregon versus Mitchell, the U.S. Supreme Court was tasked with reviewing the constitutionality of the provision. A divided Supreme Court ruled that Congress had the authority to lower the voting age in federal elections, but lacked the power to do so for state and local elections. Under this verdict, 18 to 20-year-olds were now eligible to vote for president and vice president, but not eligible to vote for state officials in the same election. Naturally, this outraged many, resulting in large public demonstrations, led by the youth who were being drafted but not allowed the right to vote. This was the groundwork that paved the way for a constitutional amendment. Congress proposed the 26th Amendment, which provides the right of citizens of the United States who are 18 years of age or older to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of age. On March 10, 1971, the U.S. Senate voted unanimously in favor of the proposed amendment. After an overwhelmingly in favor House vote on March 23rd, the 26th Amendment went to the states for ratification. In less than 4 months, the necessary 3/4 of state legislature ratified the 26th Amendment, making it the shortest ratification period of any constitutional amendment. President Nixon signed it into law that July. At a White House ceremony attended by 500 newly eligible voters, Nixon said, "The reason I believe that your generation, the 11 million new voters, will do so much for America is that you will infuse into this nation some idealism, some courage, some stamina, and some high moral purpose that this country always needs." The Senate report accompanying the 26th Amendment states that it was proposed for 3 main reasons. First, younger citizens are fully mature enough to vote. Most people between the ages of 18 and 21 had finished high school and had received some sort of higher education. Secondly, 18-year-olds bear all or most of an adult's responsibilities. This consideration was especially important since more than 11,000 Americans killed in Vietnam were under the age of 20. Third, Young voters should be given the opportunity to influence our society in a peaceful and constructive manner. Excluding 18-year-olds from the political process resulted in violent protests against the government. It might be a bit of a mystery why exactly we decided 18 was the standard for adulthood, but it's no mystery why Wix is the standard for great websites. With a robust selection of fully customizable templates and tools that let you build from scratch, Wix has everything you need to get started designing a great website today. And if design isn't your thing, Wix's ADI feature can build one for you by just answering a few simple questions. You can finally create that amazing website that you've been putting off because maybe you just didn't know how by going to wix.com/go/infographics or by clicking the link in the description.
Music?
Yep.
Close the deal?
Yep.
Start a tab?
Oh, yeah.
You been doing some drinking, sir?
Yep. Having a good one? Yep.
This video was made possible by Wix. If you're ready to create a website, head over to wix.com/go/infographics to try out one of their premium plans right now. The killing of a monarch is called regicide. It's not something that happens in modern times, but in the past, quite a few royals were murdered or executed. Take Charles I of England, for instance, who said an unjust sentence that I suffered to take effect is punished now by an unjust sentence on me, right before he put his head on the block. Then you get Henry VI, who was murdered while he was staying at England's worst lodgings, the Tower of London. Or what about Alexander of Greece, who for all intents and purposes was murdered by a monkey? But it's not often you hear about common folks getting close enough to fellow monarchs. Today, we'll find out why. This episode of the Infographic Show, how much protection is the royals? It goes without saying that monarchs are heavily guarded and don't take the risk of rubbing shoulders with the hoi polloi. You don't hear about Queen Elizabeth popping down to the shops for a loaf of bread and a packet of Marlboro Lights. It's not likely that these days the British public would get rankled enough to command the Queen's head, but there are likely a few anti-royal people out there, so she has a security detail. In fact, in 2017, former security expressed concern that her present security system had changed. Scotland Yard had begun implementing a rotation system, and that means the Queen would be seen many times. One of the guys who were looking into the late Princess Diana said, "Understanding the behaviors of the person you are charged with protecting is crucial. Understanding the machinations of the royal household is very important too." But how much protection do these royals usually get? Well, you might see the Queen surrounded by soldiers that are what's called the Queen's Guard. While every tourist likes to get a picture with these guys, they can sometimes be seen wearing what looks like a bear's backside on their head, a busby. They are not just there for show. They actually do protect the Queen. These guys stand at their post and make sure no one can get to the Queen or any other royals. That wasn't the case in 1982 when a guy got to the Queen's bedroom, but it was there that he was intercepted by the police. The cops over in London have a branch they call the Royalty and Specialist Protection Service. These guys look like regular security with dark sunglasses and a black suit and tie. A website called Elite UK Forces tells us that men in this service stay around when the Queen is at home, and they follow her and any other member of the British royal family when they travel abroad. It's said that they are highly trained. They're experts in one-on-one combat, and if they don't fight with their fists, they may end up using their 9mm Glock 17 pistol. Before the royals go anywhere, these guys would have secured the area and done them a confidence. As we said, there are not too many people out there who share the blood of royals, but in modern times, there have been some close scrapes. In 1981, a kid in New Zealand tried to take out the Queen with a gun when she was visiting. He missed with his shot, and it was kept secret at the time. The Guardian wrote the Queen had just stepped out of a Rolls-Royce to greet 3,500 well-wishers when a distinctive crack rang out across the grassy reserve. Cops got a hold of him, and during an interrogation, he told them he had been ordered to do the hit by a mysterious character called... Yes, he was crazy, and sent to a psychiatric facility. He later decided he also wanted to kill her son, Prince Charles, and then while in prison, he was awaiting trial for murder. When asked about his famous assassination attempt, he said, "Damn, I missed." Had he been a better shot, Britain may have lost its queen and many questions would have been asked about her security detail. It seems the British royals had a fair few enemies in that part of the world. In Australia in 1994, a young man by the name of David Kang attempted to assassinate Prince Charles. Well, not quite. The guy rushed toward the stage where Charles was standing and fired not a real gun but a starter pistol, twice. He was then pushed to the ground by the New South Wales Premier, John Fahey, and Australian of the Year, Ian Kiernan. Charles was shielded by his security. The man got just 500 hours of community service. He now works as a barrister, so he didn't do too badly. We guess security is a bit tighter these days. When the royals go abroad these days, they are protected by the Special Escort Group. The armed men will surround a motorcade that is carrying one or more of the royals. They will also be somewhere in the crowd. We're told the goal of the SEG Outriders is to enable the VIP convoy to keep moving, thereby avoiding presenting a stationary target to would-be attackers, while causing minimal disruption to the public. There's also a guy who gets to have the cool-sounding job of Easy Rider. This is the person that rides a motorcycle in front of the convoy. It's said that the motorcycle security guys usually ride Honda VFR 1200s. They carry handguns, but also sometimes MP5 SF2 carbine guns. One of these men crashed in 2014 when Prince Harry was being taken in a Range Rover to the Invictus Games. The Daily Mail wrote the driver, acting in line with his anti-terrorism training, expertly steered through the damaged vehicles at speed before coming to a stop several hundred feet along the road. But it wasn't an attack, just an unfortunate crash. Simon Morgan, who worked as security for the royals for many years, told the British press that the protection was mostly about knowing what's going on around you. You must have the eye of an eagle, a super awareness. That's what the protection officer is thinking when the principal gets out, meets and greets the host, waves to fans or the press. You have thought of everything that might happen during that simple walk of 2 or 3 yards, Morgan said. He also said that it's mentally draining, especially when the royals walking around close to where hundreds of people are waving. You're looking at hands,
Close the deal?
Yep.
Starting tab?
Oh, yeah.
You been doing some drinking, sir?
Yep. All right. Having a good one?
Yep.
My chips! I mean, oh no! Aliens kidnapped my friends. I'm going to get them back.
No way.
Emmett Brakowski, you're the reason I started wearing vests. I don't get it. Let's go find your friends.
Only the toughest are gonna get out of there alive.
Who's a good boy? Yes, you are.
The Lego Movie 2. You can experience it in IMAX.
looking at eye contact, you're looking at the dress. It's very relevant at times like this when we are dealing with suicide bomber type scenarios. Why has someone got a very heavy winter coat on a lovely summer's day, he said. To get into this position, you'll have to take a lot of courses. You might learn how to be a response driver, an anti-hijack driver, an armored car driver. Obviously, you get lots of firearms training. But as we said, learning situational awareness is a big part of the training. He added that even though under their smart suits they're packing powerful handguns, they don't want to be a show of force. Instead, they meld in. When he worked there, he said there were 107 officers protecting the royals. These days, he's taking care of famous movie stars and very rich business people. Do all the royals get this kind of protection? Well, you have the main royal family, the princes and princess and dukes. You've probably never heard of the Princess Michael of Kent, the Queen's cousin-in-law. So you have those guys and all their families. Then you've got all the members of the House of Windsor, and there are lots of them. On top of that, you have a bunch of folks who are related to the royals, but they don't use what's called the royal style. Take, for example, Lady Sarah Frances Elizabeth Chato. So it's a big family, and no, they don't all have round-the-clock security, but you can bet they won't be seen getting some pie and chips at London Derby football game. The British tabloids in 2012 did say, however, that around 21 royals have tight security and that it was costing the British taxpayer around $130 million a year. The Mirror wrote 1,000 officers are being used to guard the royals in their homes around the clock. 15 properties around the country do have this round-the-clock security. You might not even have heard of some of the people with this security. It's said that each of these lesser-known royals will still have 5 highly trained officers around them all the time. As for those places the royals like to stay, such as Balmoral Castle in Scotland, they will have scores of officers and armed response personnel surrounding them when they're occupied. You can't just walk up to the door and ask if the princess is playing. This includes the country cottage where you might find Prince William and Kate Middleton. And don't even think about rolling into the palace and doing a belfie in the royal palace. What about princes joining the army, such as Prince Harry? Was Harry protected, or was he hanging out with the working class lads from Liverpool, Manchester? Well, royal lovers would have you think the royals are as much at risk as any other city. But is that the case? Harry once told The Guardian, "It's easy to forget who I am when I'm in the army. Everyone's wearing the same uniform and doing the same kind of thing. I get on well with the lads and I enjoy my job. It really is as simple as that." That said, his unit was the Household Cavalry's Blues and Royals, which is what you might call a special unit of senior officers. But of late they've been deployed to the Balkans, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The unit does lose the odd soldier in action, and Harry did say in the past that he wanted to see action. "The last thing I want to do is have my soldiers away to Iraq or wherever like that, and for me to be held back home." But in the end, he wasn't allowed to go on that occasion. Then he got his chance in 2008 when he was sent to the Helmand province of Afghanistan, but it was kept secret at the time. Years later, he was shooting at the Taliban and then flying Apache helicopters. It sounds like a con, but Harry is genuinely shaping up to be one of the best young Apache pilots this country has ever seen, said a military source. So there you go. Maybe Harry is the least protected royal. There's always the chance he'll get hit by a bullet or a helicopter will go down. The royal family needs to be protected, but so does your personal or business website. Thank you. This has your back. A comprehensive troubleshooting database and mobile hosting, so your site is always available no matter the device. Click the link in the description or go to wix.com/go/infographics and start designing a website that's perfect for you and completely bug-free. Would you like to be a royal? Is it a good life being followed around constantly or having to be protected? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video, Are You Related to the Royal Family? Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time. This video is made possible by Wix. If you're ready to create a website, head over to wix.com/go/infographics to try out one of their premium plans right now. It's a fast, every day. From time to time, tragedy strikes and leaves behind little more than a mystery. No wreckage, no survivors, just a haunting sense of what exactly happened. But other times, tragedy strikes and leaves behind a plethora of evidence, all pointing at sinister and unbelievable conclusions. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Infographics Show's Greatest Mysteries. Today, we're taking a look at the ghost ship Orang Medan. Ghost ships have been a staple of maritime folklore for centuries, and something we like to pretend we no longer believe in. However, sometimes fate tests that disbelief, pushing back the boundaries of our knowledge and our confidence in science and reason over superstition. The Orang Medan is one of those of mystery. The answer we may find too terrifying to accept. Reports vary on the start of the Orang Medan mystery, with some placing it in June of 1947 and others in